What up, everybody? Colton Nerdy Core, back here with another video, and this one will be another top 10 gaming video. This one will specifically focus on the PC. I know a lot of people think of me as only a console gamer, mainly because most of my videos only focus on console gaming. So I also want to highlight the fact that I love playing on the PC, and I'm going to list off some of my favorite games that I've enjoyed playing throughout the years. Now for me personally, I mainly use the PC for multiplayer gaming. That's because I usually prefer my single player games on the consoles. But I do delve into a couple of the single player games exclusively for the PC. Before I hop into the top 10, just want to highlight that these games are going to be ones that either are specifically only released for the PC or ones that I prefer to play on the PC because I think they run better, and I would recommend people buying them on the PC versus the console edition of them. Alright, coming out at number 10 is Civilization V. This is a game released in 2010 originally that has received multiple DLCs and is made by Fyrax Games and is a turn-based strategy game mainly focused on grid-based combat. Now this one gets on my list mainly because it is a game that got me into a certain style of game. I initially wasn't a big fan of the grid style, fighting system style that is present in these types of games. And what really got me into Civilization compared to other ones was the depth of the game and how good it felt to play each of the different factions, because they all feel really unique with their certain special units that only those factions can make, and the abilities and kind of like special passives that each certain faction had. Also, another big thing in these games is how many ways you can win a round of this game. So you can build by building a certain amount of wonders, you can win by destroying all your enemies, you can win by trees and stuff like that. So there's various amounts of different strategies that make the gameplay a lot more interesting than traditional grid-based style games where just mainly focus on grid-based combat. And also this game is just really well polished and is a well-made game, so it really kept me interested, and it's a blast to play with friends, either in PvP or PvE versus AI. Either way, this game's awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to any PC gamers that don't have it. Alright, so coming in at number 9, we got Overwatch 2. This is a game released in 2012 by Robot Entertainment, and is a third-person action tower defense game. This game, for me, is one of the funnest games on this list. This is a great co-op game. Me and my friend played through every single level of this. Took us probably about, I think it's like 20 to 25 levels if I'm not sure, with some DLC in it as well. There's two main classes you play as. There's the male character and the female character. The female character is like a witch with certain powers and different weapons, and the guy kind of uses melee weapons or guns. The story or endless modes use the same maps, and there's probably in total close to 20 to 30 maps in the game, and they're all very unique and offer different pathways for enemies to come from and different opportunities to utilize all the different towers that you have in the game. And the tower and builds are really the draw to this game. Like a lot of other tower defense games, which this game is, it mainly focuses on using and upgrading abilities and towers and units in order to defeat the waves coming at you. There's so many different variations on towers, from standing units like archers, knights, or dwarves who throw bombs, or side wall towers that slow down enemies, shoot darts, or can freeze opponents. There's also ceiling and floor related traps that can also add different things into the mix. One of the biggest things, in my opinion, that sets this apart from other tower defense games is the vast upgrade system and the specific abilities and builds you can make with your characters. So you can run a bunch of towers and armored units that mainly focus on keeping you in the fight, stalling units, and using you and some specifically placed damage towers as a sort of damage. Or you can run a full like CC mass slowdown build. There's a bunch of different other builds, just full damage. You can run different weapons that have different abilities, special abilities, that all really can lead to unique ways to play this game. Alright, so coming in at number 8, we got League of Legends. This is a game released in 2009. It was made by Riot Games and is a MOBA, which stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. This would probably be my most controversial game on this list due to the vast popularity and unpopularity of this game. It's a game that's loved to be hated and hated to be loved. Definitely one of the more toxic communities I've experienced in gaming, but the game itself is really solid and is definitely one of the better MOBAs I've played, and personally my favorite. The reason why this specifically makes my list is partially a little bit of nostalgia in the fact that it was really one of the first PvP games I got introduced to and really fell in love with. Originally when I started playing this game, I only had a shitty laptop that could barely run this game at 15 frames per second, and I would sit and play bot modes, just trying to unlock new champions and fiddle with different builds and just messing around with new characters. I never really looked at builds or how to even play the game, so I was learning as I go, and I really found it interesting to learn a full new game. The other thing is the vast amount of really fun and unique characters in the game. The main draw for me always of this game is finding new characters that I love to play. For me specifically, characters like Udyr, Volibear, Garen, and Karthus are some of my favorite to play, and ones I've really loved getting into and learning how to play them as best as I can. And with all the constant updates, balances, and meta changes, it always keeps the game fresh and keeps players on their toes and adjusting, which is a great way to keep a player versus player community alive. Now, why this game is not a lot higher is because of the community of the game. I think it's one of the worst communities in terms of the toxicity in the game, but it's part of the game. You know, trash talking has always been part of video games and sports. I'm fine with it. It's just, it kind of ruins some of the games with the players getting tilted, leaving, just purposely throwing and stuff like that. That's very prominent in this game. Otherwise than that, this game structurally is really good, just besides some early release champions that may be broken or some certain patches that usually need some balancing out or tuning. Alright, coming at number 7 is Overwatch. This is a game released in 2016, is made by Blizzard Studios, and is a first-person shooter. For those of you who don't know about this game, this is basically a class-based shooter, similar to that of Team Fortress 2. This game basically runs as there's tanks, damage characters, and support. The game consists of King of the Hill style of matches, and also payload and capture point style of matches. It varies depending on which map you get, has different game modes attached to it. And again, like League of Legends, specifically for me, the vast amount of characters and how differently they play is one of my favorite things about this game. It's always fun picking up a new character and trying to learn and play them to the best of your abilities. Right now, I mainly play Mercy, Junkrat, and Roadhog. Those are my first 3, and my favorite 3 at the moment. And I'm always looking to try new characters, and that's what really keeps me interested in this. Also, Overwatch is great with their seasonal events. They have a lot of different game modes, from like Lucio Ball, which is like a Rocket League style of game, to they'll release elimination, kind of bot, like horde modes and stuff like that. They're really good on keeping the content fresh, which is one of the best things about this game. The reason this is at number 7 and not higher on my list is that it has come into a lot of controversy, which it's a loot box system, which I kind of agree with. Also, they kind of get rid of a lot of the modes that I feel like should be around all the time. Something like Lucio Ball would definitely help keep the community. And there was a game that did it before, already mentioned it, and I feel like it did it slightly better than Overwatch. Alright, coming at number 6, we got Killing Floor 2. This is a game released in 2016 as well, and is made by Tripwire Interactive. It is a first-person wave style of shooter. So this game focuses on the Nazi zombies or horde mode style of gameplay. So basically, you pick your character, which there's a bunch of characters you can pick in the game, but they all are different skins. They don't really affect the gameplay, and then you pick your class. The class is the main thing that affects your gameplay. There's different classes like Pyro, Demolition, Berserker, Sniper, which I think is called Sharpshooter, SWAT, support, and they all have different abilities and trees that you level up, and different weapons that they use and bonuses that they get to help your team survive the wave. Now, the main draw of this game for me, besides the great music, great atmosphere, and the creative enemies that you face throughout the game, is the map creation. And this is a game that really thrives on community engagement, and one of the best things about this game is that the community can create a bunch of different maps and have them available on the server browser, and you can download the maps and play with your friends, or you can just play on online servers with random people. It definitely helps keep the game fresh and really adds to the replayability of this game, unlike games like Nazi Zombies, when there's only certain maps you can play over and over and over and over again. In this game, there's always maps being added and always great maps you can go back to. Another great thing about this game is the character depth of the perks. The perk trees definitely allow for different type of customization, and there's always replayability of leveling up and unlocking all the perks for a different class in order to change up your playstyle. And when you get to the harder waves and harder ranks, in terms of the enemies you'll be facing, you definitely need to tailor a team comp in order to survive the waves correctly. So there's a lot of strategy in the higher waves and higher difficulty setting map. This, in my opinion, is also one of the best co-op games on this list, and is definitely one I would recommend if you have a couple of friends, just want to go shoot some stuff, have a good time, and just mess around for a bit. This is definitely a game I would recommend. Alright, coming in at number 5 is Team Fortress 2. This was released in 2007, made by Valve, as a first-person shooter. As I said, when talking about Overwatch, there is a game that did it earlier and did it better. This is Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2 is another class-based first-person shooter, and the reason why this is on my list so high is that it is the game that got me into multiplayer gaming and PC gaming specifically. Me, just like a bunch of other people, this was their first introduction to how great PC gaming can be. I never started out on the PC. I was always a console kid when I grew up. I always played on the original Xbox, PS2, PS1 when I was a lot younger, got into GameCube, then got into the PS3 for a while. I never really got into PC gaming until I got my first laptop, downloaded Steam, and popped on Team Fortress 2 because it was for free. And for a free game, this game's amazing. The classes are very unique and play really well and are really well balanced, which is one of the things that you can't really say for Overwatch, because with all the patches they're doing currently and all the new characters they're integrating, there's been some serious balance issues with that game. Another thing I find Team Fortress 2 does better than Overwatch is that there's the map creation and community engagement that Overwatch doesn't have. There's a lot of custom maps, a lot of custom game modes that people make on the community browser, and it's a blast playing the different like trading servers, prop hunt, and various other game modes which really aren't in Overwatch as much. Yes, there's a search ending, but it's not to the extent of Team Fortress 2. Another thing that Team Fortress 2 does really well is the crafting system and the cosmetics and weapons. So the weapons are very easy to obtain, and cosmetics are decently easy to obtain, but they're all obtainable through free measures if you just put the time in. And the weapons, in my opinion, really help add a different layer to the game, because the weapons, when you buy them, so you get a different type of sniper, it plays way differently than your original sniper, so you can definitely make specific classes that really fit your playstyle, and it was one of my favorite things to do in this game. Overall, this game's community is still alive, still an amazing game to play, and in my opinion is one of the best first-person shooters to exist. Alright, coming at number 4 is Starcraft II. This was a game released in 2010 initially, and is made by Blizzard. This game is a real-time strategy, or RTS, which is what it usually goes by. So this game is really my introduction to the RTS genre, besides the original Warcraft games on the PS1. And this game, when I first started playing it, I was hooked. I bought this game initially when it came out, not really knowing too much about it, just knowing that it came from the same company that the original ones on the PS1, the Warcraft ones, and I really loved those as a kid, so I really wanted to pick up this once I started getting into PC gaming to give it a shot. I played this game all the time, played team battles, which was my personal favorite, 4v4, just a lot of different armies and customization going on and different unit types being used to all like coordinate together, different attacks and stuff like that. I was never really good at this game, just found it really fun to play. What separates this game from a lot of RTSs I've played is the combat and movement is some of the smoothest I have played. This game runs and feels amazing playing it, and there's all the factions feel different yet pretty balanced, even though they tweaked some stuff and added some new units and stuff like that. I never really got into the multiplayer as of now after they added all the new units, so I don't know how balanced it is currently, but at least when I was playing this game was really well balanced and felt really fun to play all the different classes to learn their playstyles. Another thing that really separates this game is the arcade mode. This is a game mode where creative people that play the game can create their own maps and full out games in order to keep the game fresh and interesting for everybody. Some of my favorite games include Phantom Mode, which is a basic Starcraft game, but 1 or 2 players are phantoms and their goal is to kill everybody else in the game, and the goal of everybody else is to figure out who those 2 people are and eliminate them before the phantoms get too strong. Another one is Mafia, which is the classic card game just visualized in Starcraft, and there's also games like Risk and certain MOBAs that are very interesting and really fun to play in. There's also a very good story mode in this game. With all the expansions, there's 3 of them total, 1 focusing on each of the factions. I've personally only played through 2 of the campaigns. I haven't got the Protoss one yet, but I'm looking to get that eventually. They're very good, and I would definitely recommend even just picking these games up for the campaigns. But if you're not into the campaigns or even the RTS elements, there are definitely some fun custom games that anybody can get into. Alright, coming in at number 3 is CounterStrike Global Offensive. This is a game released in 2012, it's made by Valve, as a first-person shooter. So CounterStrike is a great first-person shooter, mainly focuses on 5v5 game, with the big draw being its competitive game mode. This game mode is a 5v5 single life game mode with a delicate economy and money balancing system, with 2 objectives and 1 team attacking, 1 team defending. The main thing that really draws people to this game, like myself, is the gameplay. The gameplay is very smooth, the shooting is unique, and that the spray patterns and stuff like that are really only ever found in games like Counter-Strike, and the maps and guns are very well balanced and designed, besides when the Magnum was added, but we're not going to talk about that in this video. Another thing that also keeps this game above other first-person shooters is the community servers. Some of my favorite times and most of my time playing this game is spent on community servers that just have a bunch of different game modes, from like cops and robbers, prisoner games, surfing, prop hunt, and all those different types of games are very prominent on this. My favorite game personally being Surf. I spent hundreds of hours just messing around, putting on some music, and surfing around everywhere. It's basically a time trial game where you basically go onto a server, it has a map, and you kind of slide down ramps and see who can get the fastest time, basically. Overall, Counter-Strike is definitely a game I would recommend any first-person shooter fan pick up, especially if you're into PvP first-person shooters. This is one of the best and most popular PvP shooters on the market right now, and is definitely the biggest in terms of the esports draw and competitive draw to the game, which is definitely a big factor in this game. Alright, next up, coming at number 2 is Dead by Daylight. This is a game released in 2016. It's made by Behavior Interactive and is a survival horror game. Now, as I stated in my intro to this video, I'm not just doing games that are specific to the PC. Dead by Daylight is one that you can also get on the consoles, similar to games like Overwatch or Killing Floor 2, but this game, just like those other 2, I find the controls and how the game plays is definitely fitted more towards the PC gaming. Specifically, Dead by Daylight, the controls and the actual gameplay and how smooth it is a lot better on the PC. So if you're picking up this game, I would definitely recommend getting it on the PC rather than the console. Now to get on to the gameplay. So the gameplay of Dead by Daylight is basically there's 4 survivors and 1 kill. The killer's goal is basically to kill all the survivors. He does that by usually downing people by hitting them twice. Some killers have abilities that allow them to one hit. It just depends on what killer you're playing. Then they would put them on hooks. 3 times on the hook, they're dead. Survivor's goal is to repair 5 generators on the map. There's, I think, a total of 7, if I'm not mistaken. And they repair the generators activate the doors they use to escape. So it's kind of an objective mode for the survivors, and the killer's mode is to stop them from doing those. It sounds simple on the surface, but once you get into the different variety of killers, the different survivors, the different survivor perks, the killer perks, the different add-ons for all those killers and survivors, it really becomes a complex and very deep game, which is the main reason I love this game. There's a lot of criticisms about this game, about balancing issues, new characters that have been released, Cough Legion, but overall there's a lot of just fun and different characters that really change the way that you have to play each map, depending on either what type of survivors you get or what type of killers you get. This game's a lot about figuring out different builds, different killers, and different add-ons that work for you, and creating builds that really test the meta and test different playstyles of different survivors and killers in order to outwit and outplay the people in your lobby. Unlike similar games like Friday the 13th, the survivors really don't have a way to fight back in terms of getting physical with the killer. What the survivors do is run and vault and knock down pallets in order to create kind of like loops that the killer have to follow in order to get them down. So the goal is to either escape by using the pallets and windows to create space in order to get away and break line of sight, or their goal is to loop them around different objects and different buildings in order to buy time for the other survivors, complete gens, and get out. I would definitely recommend this game to anybody who wants to play co-op with their friends. It's great to pop on, play some quick survivor games with your friends, run around some killers, definitely have some fun with that. And I could also recommend this game to anybody who likes to play solo and kind of like to play that lone wolf gameplay like the killer. I personally love to play killer. I think it's the best part of the game because of all the different builds and how different all the killers feel. The most compelling part of the game, and what really draws me back to this game all the time. And I'm really hoping this game continues to flourish. Alright, coming at number 1, my favorite PC game to play, and is one of my favorite games of all time, and it's probably a game most of you have never heard of, or probably some of you have heard of it but never played it, and that's Mountain Blade Warband. This is a game released in 2010, it's made by Tales World Entertainment, and it's a medieval action RPG. Alright, so the main draw of this game is the combat. So the combat, if any of you played Chivalry, it's similar to that, but a lot more fluent and better than Chivalry, in that you block by using your right mouse trigger with movement. So if I'm blocking up, I would move my mouse up, press the right trigger to right click to block. Same with attacking, you would match your swings with your mouse movements in order to change up attacks to trick and outmaneuver your opponent. It also includes horseback cavalry gameplay, which has a lot of different elements to it. It also includes range gameplay such as crossbows, javelins, and archers. It has a very deep single player game mode, which is kind of a RPG style of game where you kind of lead your character from being a peasant who just happens to stumble across a merchant needing help into possibly ruling your own kingdom, joining one of the 5 factions in the game to help them conquest the world, or become a bandit and just go around destroying stuff. You can do whatever you want. It's a sandbox style of game, and it's definitely a lot of fun to replay. Another big draw to this game for a lot of people is the modding community. There's definitely a big modding community that focuses on single player games as well as multiplayer style of mods. The single player mods can range from Game of Thrones styles of mod to Star Wars style of mod. There's definitely a lot of creativity and unique game modes that go into the single player modding community. The main draw for me personally though is the multiplayer. The multiplayer is one that it is a small community, definitely one that most people who play don't really get into due to how hard the skill gap is to get actually really good at this game. Overall, I've put in 2,700 hours into this game so far, and I am nowhere near the best player at the game, but I consider myself to be pretty good at the game. It is a game that I've got into the competitive scene, so I've led my own teams in the competitive. I've been in all the major tournaments, at least North American wise, and I really hope to continue to see this game do really, really well with the release of Bannerlord soon. The multiplayer has many different modes, ranging from team deathmatch, single deathmatch, capture the flag. There's kind of a bot survival mode, and my main mode, which is battle. Battle is really the current competitive scene mode, which is kind of like a CSGO style of mode, where everybody has one life. There's an economy system of the more kills you get, the better your team does, the better armor and gear you can upgrade your character in, and then you do a couple rounds. Whoever gets to the round limit wins that set. Then you go on to the next set, rinse and repeat, change the map, do it twice. Whoever wins the most rounds out of that whole game wins the game. There's so much time and effort you gotta put into this game in order to master the combat. From melee, archery, cav, it takes hundreds of hours to perfect all of them. And it's a game that really rewards players that put the time in to get really good at the game, because there is a vast difference between somebody with a couple hundred hours and somebody who has thousands of hours in this game. Someone with thousands of those hours in the game can go up against a person who has hundreds of hours in this game and basically never die to them if they play correct. The main draw to that is that it always really had an interest with me with how to learn the game from scratch, learn how to be good at the game, learn all the mechanics of the game, which are very deep, and learn how to play as a team with different players, and learn how to use the multiple different classes to help in certain situations. This is a game I would definitely recommend to anybody as a single player game, and really only a multiplayer game if you're into putting the time in to get good, or there's certain servers that you can just mess around and have some fun with. It's definitely still able to be a pick up and play game, just don't expect to be that good at it if you're not putting in the time for it. Yeah, so there you have it. There's my top 10 PC game. Hope you guys enjoyed the list and video. Definitely comment down below some of your favorite PC games, and especially ones I didn't mention, so I can give them a shot and see how they are. I know my list is very multiplayer heavy, but that's usually what I do on the PC. As I said before, single player games I usually get on the console if I can, so anytime I'm playing multiplayer I'm usually on the PC, while the console I use for all my single player games. Again, hope you all enjoyed, and thanks for watching, and just remember, everybody has some nerdiness at their core.